Stephen V was pope from 896 to 897. Fueled by his anger with Pope Formosus, his predecessor, he exhumed Formosus's rotting corpse and put him on trial, in the so-called Cadaver Synod in January, 897. With the corpse propped up on a throne, a deacon was appointed to answer for the deceased pontiff, who was condemned for performing the functions of a bishop when he had been deposed and for receiving the pontificate while he was the Bishop of Porto, among other revived charges that had been leveled against Formosus in the strife during the pontificate of John VIII. The corpse was found guilty, stripped of its sacred vestments, deprived of 3 fingers of its right hand, the blessing fingers, clad in the garb of a layman, and quickly buried. It was then re-exhumed and thrown in the Tiber. All ordinations performed by Formosus were annulled. The trial excited a tumult. Benedict IX was pope from 1032 to 1044, again in 1045, and finally from 1047 to 1048, the only man to have served as pope for 3 discontinuous periods, and one of the most controversial popes of all time. Benedict gave up his papacy for the first time in exchange for a large sum of money in 1044. He returned in 1045 to depose his replacement and reigned for 1 month, after which he left again, possibly to marry, and sold the papacy for a second time, to his godfather, possibly for over 650 kilograms/1,450 pounds of gold. 2 years later, Benedict retook Rome and reigned for an additional 1 year, until 1048. Papa of Brixen, later to become Pope Damascus II, eventually forced him out of Rome. Benedict's place and date of death are unknown, but some speculate that he made further attempts to regain the papal throne. Saint Peter Damian described him as feasting on immorality and a demon from hell in the disguise of a priest in the Liber Gomerianus, a treatise on papal corruption and sex that accused Benedict IX of routine homosexuality and bestiality. John XII was pope from 955 to 964. On 963, Holy Roman Emperor Otto I summoned a council, leveling charges that John had ordained a deacon in a stable, consecrated a 10-year-old boy as Bishop of Todi, converted the Lateran Palace into a brothel, raped female pilgrims in St. Peter's, stolen church offerings, drank toasts to the devil, and invoked the aid of Jove, Venus, and other pagan gods when playing dice. He was deposed, but returned as pope when Otto left Rome, maiming and mutilating all who had opposed him. On 964, he was apparently beaten by the husband of a woman with which he was having an affair, dying 3 days later without receiving confession or the sacraments. The conspirators died of food poisoning. Some people argue that Leo X and his followers simply concocted the assassination charges in a money-making scheme to collect fines from the various wealthy cardinals Leo X detested. His extravagance offended not only people like Martin Luther, but also some cardinals, who, led by Alfonso Petruzzi of Siena, plotted an assassination attempt. Eventually, Pope Leo found out who these people were, and had them followed. Crimes for the moment disappeared, to give place to vices, but to charming vices, vices in good taste, such as those indulged in by Alcibiades and sung by Catullus. When he became pope, Leo X is reported to have said to his brother Giuliano, "Since God has given us the papacy, let us enjoy it." According to Alexander Dumas, under his pontificate, Christianity assumed a pagan character, which, passing from art into manners, gives to this epoch a strange complexion. Leo X was pope from 1513 to his death in 1521. He is known primarily for the sale of indulgences to reconstruct St. Peter's Basilica and his challenging of Martin Luther's 95 Theses. Alexander I was pope from 1492 to 1503. He is the most controversial of the secular popes of the Renaissance, and his surname, Italianized as Borgia, became a byword for the debased standards of the papacy of that era. Originally Cardinal Borgia from Spain, Pope Alexander's claims to fame were taking over much of Italy by force with the help of his son's heir, yes, his son, a racy relationship with his daughter Lucrezia, some say her son was his, and his affinity for throwing large parties, bordering on orgies, that usually culminated with little naked boys jumping out of large cakes.